You are Locked On Texans Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Houston on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
On a victory Sunday, yes, you're hearing it. I am not well. I am Michael Connor. He is Wade Smith. He is going to do a lot of the talking today because he's the MVP. I'm coming off a week of having the flu, and I've lost my voice. But you know what? The Texans won today, Wade. Miami Dolphins come to town. Defense steps up. Derek Stingley big at the end of the game. And then all that matters, like we always talk about, the Texans get out of there with that win. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't perfect. But they found a way to a win. How good was that today for you?
It was a beautiful thing, man. You look at it, the Texans this was a big ball game. There was a lot of things that weren't going in the Texans' favor when you lose your starting middle linebacker, Zaire, to a 3-game suspension. You got a Miami Dolphins team that's coming in town. They're pretty hot. They just won a game in overtime. They're playing for their playoff lives. They know if they lose this ball game, they're out. Whereas the Texans are just trying to play for seeding, play for clinching the division. You might be a little concerned about the sense of urgency, but I tell you what, man, the Texans defense did everything that DeMeco Ryans game plan for them to do that he talked about throughout the week. That's what you saw on display in this game for the Texans. Like, you talk about swarming defense, you're talking about winning a ball game, holding a team like the Miami Dolphins to 12 points, forcing them into 4 turnovers, complete team win. But the catalyst for it was the Houston Texans defense. Like, you got to give those guys a lot of credit for what they were able to do. They took on the identity of the head coach. Lots of guys swarming to the ball, lots of sheer tackling, very physical play. The defensive line got after it. You had a sack fumble by Will Anderson, and it was predicated off of a great rush by Danico Autry on that play where he had a nice long arm, drove the lineman back into the quarterback's lap, and then Tua has to back up a little bit. Will Anderson beats his guy, of course, and gets the sack fumble, and Tim settles. Johnny on the spot gets the recovery, and the Texans are able to capitalize on it. I mean, like, the complimentary football was the name of the game today when you see the fact that you force 4 turnovers, you get a punt, a fake punt. There was a big possession. You thought maybe that you got the fake punt and then fumbled, but they checked the instant replay, and Gumwale was down by contact. But just overall, I was very, very happy with what I saw out of the Houston Texans because, like I said, that Miami Dolphins team needed a victory in the worst way. Their season is pretty much done. It actually is done after that. And so you knew they were going to bring their A game. You knew that this is the first of a 3-game stretch for the Houston Texans, and there's the extra pressure in that because you know that, hey, the 3 games is you got the Dolphins, you got the Chiefs coming up in a few days, and then you got the Ravens in a few days after that. Each game, it's not getting easier for the Houston Texans. But they did what they needed to do is to get that first win and knock that out. They were in control for pretty much the whole game. And they led from beginning to end. And so I was just very pleased with what the Texans were able to do, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Lots of game balls coming later on in the show, but I was just very happy with the performance out there. There were some things that, of course, were a little discouraging, disappointing. Joe Mixon gets banged up early in the ball game. I think he ended up with like 20-some yards rushing. It was a tough day at the option. I think he had 20-something carries, and I don't know how many yards it was. It might have been 30 yards. It was
12 carries, 23 yards.
12 carries, 23 yards. So he had 23 yards rushing. That's a rough day at the office, but I was glad that he was able to get back in the game. Because when he went out, I was like, man, if it's anything long-term, that's a big deal for the Texans. For him to be able to come back in the game and play, catch the ball out of the backfield some, still was a presence there throughout. The offense made some plays when they need to make them. Nico Collins, of course, is a playmaker, and he made 2 big touchdown grabs for the Texans. But overall, I just thought it was a team victory, a much-needed win. It was one of those – it's not a must-have, but the closest you can have to a must-have win when you're talking about putting yourself in a position to where you don't want to be a one and done team in the playoffs. And getting this W puts you in a position to where now you're still in a you still have a not in the driver's seat, but you're still alive for moving up in the seeding because you got some teams that are in front of you that got some tough balls and games in front of them. You see that the Steelers are playing against the Eagles right now. That's a game that the Steelers can easily lose. The Steelers are going to have to play the Ravens again, I believe. That's a game that they can lose. And so if you can find yourself moving your way up that ladder a little bit to becoming maybe a 3 seed or a 2 seed, that plays out in the long run if you want to go on a run for the Texans. So all those things are still out there in front of them. The division championship is in front of them. I think the Colts. When did the Colts play? The Colts play.
They're playing right now.
They're playing right now.
They're up 10-0.
Okay, they're up 10-0. But if the Colts lose, of course, then now you got the division you're in as a Houston Texans franchise, and so you did your part today. Got the W at home. Very, very happy. Very, very pleased with what happened on the defensive side of the ball. And with an offense like that, with as many talented guys that they have on the offensive side of the ball, with the shifts in the motioning and the short passing game and them getting the ball out quick, getting the ball to guys like Devin A-Chain, like those guys they were not game-breaking players that they have been all year long against the Texans. They just did a really good job of swarming, shutting those guys down before they can get started. So I was very pleased with the Texans defense.
CJ Stroud today. Talk about him for a minute. I didn't think it was terrible on his part, but, the line at times wasn't great. What did you think of CJ's day?
It was – I think his game was okay. Like, it wasn't bad and it wasn't good. I thought it was okay. There's a couple plays where I just thought to myself, like, man, CJ is not moving the way that I'm used to CJ moving. There were times where he had opportunities to scramble where you would think he could get away from it, and he didn't get away from it. He got sacked a few times, and he looked kind of slower than normal when he was getting sacked. And so I don't know what he's dealing with physically as far as his mobility, but hopefully, he can get that back by the time you get to the playoffs, because that can be a weapon for you. And right now, you're not seeing the mobility out of CJ Stroud of what you're used to seeing. It's not like he's a guy that's going to run out of time, but he had that ability to pull the ball down and get you 3-4 yards and get a first down or make someone miss in the pocket. You really haven't seen that, and you didn't see that today. So, and I think he's probably got something ailing him that's kind of keeping him from doing that. But with the switch on the offensive line, you had to move Titus Howard to left guard today. Blake Fisher started at right tackle because Juice Scruggs is going to be out for a few weeks. You knew that there was going to be some issues that come up as far as protection in the run game. And you saw early on in the ball game, they ran a stunt against Titus Howard and the running back. And they did a pick game between the guy that the running back was supposed to block and the defensive lineman that Titus Howard was blocking. And they were able to get loose and get a sack on CJ. And, that was the thing that you were concerned about. Is like, all right, is CJ going to take too many hits? He took some shots today. He was able to finish the ball game, but he took care of the ball. And so that was important. Did he turn the ball over?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. He didn't turn the ball over at all, which was important. He took sacks, but he took, and those were sacks that, like, in my opinion, like, he took those sacks. I think there was one time that he got hit where they came scot-free and got the sack, but there was a couple that most of the times he was taking sacks. Like, if he would have just brought the ball down and ran it, he could have ran, or he was trying to avoid some pressure and he couldn't get away, because normally those would have been sacks that CJ would have avoided. Like I say, he's not moving the way that I've seen him move since he's been with the Texans, since he's been the quarterback for the Houston Texans. So, like I said, hopefully he can get a little bit, some of that mobility back. But I would just say he played okay. He played well enough to get the W, did a good job of holding on to the rock and finding Nico Collins on the touchdown, that second touchdown. I just thought that when you look at the fact that they were unable to run the football at all, 20-some yards rushing for Joe Mixon. Hey, don't turn the ball over, which he did not do. He took sacks, but did not, fumble the ball or give the ball up any of that way. And then he found Tank Dell for big catches. He found Dalton Schultz for plays to where he can convert. There's a pass that he threw to John Mechie that was just a beautiful throw that would have been a big play that Mechie was unable to bring in there. But like I said, I thought CJ played okay. He played well enough to win the game. He played well enough to play complimentary football with how the defense played, with how the special teams made a big play in that game. That was the name of the game today. So I'm glad CJ came out the game thing and healthy. Like I said, he kind of not a makeshift offensive line, but he had guys in different spots than what they're normally playing, and they were able to be effective enough to come out with a W.
Let's talk about that offensive line. We'll do that next year on Locked On Texans Postcast. Wade, you want to tell us about what's going on in the college game?
Yeah, so the college football playoffs, it's that time of the year. The college football playoffs is back, and with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the college football playoff begins December 21st, starting with the college football kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Leading into our first matchup, you got SMU, Southern Methodist University, Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lion at noon. Of course, that's going to be at Penn State. That's going to be a big ball game. Then the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the college football playoffs presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max.
Locked On Texans Postcast. I'm Michael Connor. I am doing what your old coach would tell you, Wade. I'm battle fighting. I've had the flu this week. I've lost my voice. Wade is being a trooper. He's dealing with me. He's killing the show. Texans won today. We talked CJ Stroud. We talked overall how they've looked. I do want to ask you about a couple of things. First off, the offensive line. You brought up a minute ago. Makeshift offensive line today. It's still not perfect by any means. But overall, what did you think of the protection that they gave today? I know that the run game didn't have anything going. But what did you think of the pass protection?
I thought the pass protection was better for the most part than what it has been. I mean, I would say that Titus, he's a bit more natural pass protector at the left guard spot than what Juice Scruggs is, because Juice is a center. He's a center having to play left guard. So you kind of got a bump up in protection there when you're talking about one-on-one matchups against a defensive lineman. Now, he did have some issues with some games that were happening, and the Miami Dolphins did a good job of trying to exploit that, knowing that you have a guy that's really playing in a spot that he's not as comfortable playing. He's normally playing a right tackle. Now he's playing left guard. They ran some pick stunts with the linebackers and DBs blitzing. They ran some TE games. And so, he had a harder time dealing with some of that. But overall, I thought pass protection was done pretty well overall. They couldn't run the ball worth anything throughout the game. I think a lot of that had to do with Mixon being banged up early in the ball game. They did enough to get the W, man. When you look at the fact that you have, Jared Patterson is starting at center, and he is the best option at center right now. You would much rather have Juice Scruggs playing center if you could write it up with all the different guys that you have, the different options that you have up front. You'd much rather have him there. But Patterson, he's usually solid. Now he had the issue in the ball game today where he snaps the ball, him and CJ not on the same page. That was the one turnover. I guess you can give that turnover to CJ. You can give that turnover to Patterson. That's what I was trying to think about. Like, did CJ have any fumbles? They turned the ball over, but it was on a play where the ball was snapped, not when CJ was ready for it. And so, he had that issue there up front. But, to your point and to your question, I thought that the offensive line did a good enough job to give CJ plenty of time. I thought that Bobby Slowick did a good job of mixing in that play action with the drop back. I thought I thought CJ did a good job of play action to Joe Mixon and then hit him in the flat, or play action looking downfield deep, not finding anything, and then hitting Schultz in the flat and picking up yards that way. And when he's able to do that, he's play actioning, and then he has time to hit Schultz. He has time to hit Schultz in the flat there. That's telling me that, hey, he's got time up front. And so if he's got time up front, that means that the guys up front are doing their job. And so Titus Howard at left guard, I thought he did a better job of pass protecting than what you would normally see out of Juice Scruggs. So there was a little bit of an upgrade there. I thought Blake Fisher did pretty good. You know, he's starting, and he's a rookie right now, but this is not his first start. But I thought he was pretty solid up front in pass protection. And so overall, they just got to get better in the run game, and that's something we're going to keep harping on. Late in the ball game, they were unable to close the ball game out like they did last game. Not last week, but last game. Had the bye week, of course, but last game they played against Jacksonville, and they were able to run the ball 5 straight plays, close the ball game out. They had an opportunity to do that today, and they couldn't get it done, ended up having to punt it away. And, of course, the defense stepped up and made a play. Shout out to Stingley. But, just overall, I just thought that the offensive line, they were okay in pass protection, pretty good in pass protection, I think better than what they had been for a lot of weeks this year. I can't hear you.
Oh, my God.
There you go.
My Google Chrome crashed.
Oh, so we not on anymore?
No, I'm here. This is live show at its best.
Okay. I didn't
Stingley,
know.
defense. Yeah. This team to go deep in the playoffs, they're going to have to do it by the defense.
Yeah.
Where is this defense to you in the league right now? Is this a Super Bowl caliber defense based off the way that we keep seeing them play? I know that they've been sometimes. They don't break. Can this be a defense that can take them far into the playoffs?
I think so, man. And I'll say this is the reason why I say that. Because, like I said, there's been some times this year where the defense didn't really show up the way you thought they needed to, but that's only been like 1 or 2 times out of, I guess this is the 13th game this year, 14th game this year, the 9-5. So that's the 14th game this year. I only think of like 1 or 2 times where the defense didn't really show up, but they've been playing at a very high level all year long. And this is the first time that the D-line is all the way healthy. When you look at the different combinations that they were able to do up front with Denico Autry, who had this suspension early on in the year. He's back. You got Mario Edwards. You got Tim Settle. Those guys on the interior. Yeah, Fodokasi, now he went out with the injury today, but when the day started, they were at full strength. Then you have of course, Daniil Hunter. Will Anderson he was nicked up for a little bit this year and missed some games. He's there. And so you have all these different combinations of pass rushers and run stoppers that are playing at an absolutely high level. And it was really cool to see some of the things that the defensive line coach was able to do. He messed around and he had Daniil Hunter and he had Will Anderson lined up on the same side. Then he had Denico Autry, and I'm trying to remember who the other D lineman might have been. I don't know who it was. It might have been Derek Barnett. I can't remember who it was, but I just remember seeing Daniil Hunter as a 3 technique and Will Anderson to his right. And then you still had, I think, Mario Edwards, and I think it was Mario Edwards and Denico Autry. That's what it was. Like that's a nasty group to have to block. And when you have those guys who can stop the run as well as do work getting to the quarterback, that's winning football. When you're talking about going on a Super Bowl run, you're talking about going deep into the playoffs. If you have a defensive line like that that's healthy, that's as talented as those guys, that is as versatile as those guys, that could take you a long way. The guy that we ain't mentioned yet that I thought played very well at a very high level that just came back was Christian Harris. Like Christian Harris played at a very high, it looked like, oh yeah, this is the Christian Harris that ended the year as the best linebacker on the team last season. He'd been out for what seemed like 8-9 months. And guess what? He came back in and was just like he had never missed a step. He played at a very high level. So you got to think when Azeez comes back, when you have the combination of Azeez, Christian Harris, and Tua or Toa. It's not Tua. Henry. I'm just gonna say Henry. I'm gonna say Henry. Henry. Those three guys at linebacker, like that's a winning combination. And we even get into the DBs. What Bullock did today, what Stingley did today. Bullock could have had two of those picks. He had one pick, almost took it to the house. The one person in the entire NFL that I didn't want chasing Bullock on that play was the one that was chasing him, because I was like, I'm watching the play. I'm like, go score, go score, go score. And I seen, oh, that's 28. Oh, yeah, that's that guy that runs a 9 or whatever. That guy that went to Marshall High School right up the street. Yeah, he ain't gonna outrun him. So okay, and so he went and huffed him down at about that. I don't know, about the 7-8 yard line. Ended up getting a field goal on that drive, but that was an excellent play by Bullock early on in the ball game. He dropped the pick, would have been the exact same thing, but he dropped the pick early on in the game. But he got his lick back. It's Stingley, 2 picks in the game. Like he's one of the best corners in the league. When they was drafted at the number 3 overall spot a few years back, that was the thought, that you're going to draft a guy and he's going to be, one of the best corners in the league. He's been healthy and he's playing at a very high level, and he was not doing that against slouches. Now, it did help the Texans that Waddle went out of the ball game early on. Yeah. That was a big deal. But their guys, the Tyreek Hills and the A-Chains, and of course, Jonnu Smith made a play, scored a touchdown. But those guys did not just get off like you were concerned about coming into this ball game. You thought to yourself that, like, man, you know what? These guys are a problem as far as catching the ball, getting in space, making people miss, taking 80 yards to the house. They had a bunch of guys that hit home runs like that. The Texans did a great job of playing to their leverage, swarming, and they had a Super Bowl caliber performance by the group today, and they've strung together a few of those type of performances. Now let's see what they do this next week against Kansas City. I know we'll talk about Kansas City in the next segment, but that's going to be the biggest test all year long. In Kansas City, they look good today as far as offensively, when they've kind of looked kind of up and down sometimes so far this year. So they're going to have to bring their A game next week.
All right, let's get off some game balls. Let's talk about Kansas City. We'll do that next here on the Locked On Texans Postcast. We're talking about where they can make some money, Wade.
Try to make some money with FanDuel. Like, get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sport book. Because right now, new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportbook partner of the NFL.
All right, Locked On Texans Postcast. For a few more minutes, I'm the struggling one, Michael Connor. He is Wade Smith. I can't wait till next week when I have a normal voice again and we can make fun of this, because this is probably really hilarious listening to and looking at. I feel ridiculous. I feel ridiculous. And my computer crashed in the middle of it. It wasn't the internet. The computer crashed. So it's going great. Hey, you're the MVP. You get a game ball for dealing with me, but who's getting the game balls today for you for how they played?
Hey, first and foremost, I got to give a game ball to Nico Collins. I always start with offense. I'm biased, don't mind me. 2 touchdowns for Nico Collins. He's just been a matchup problem all year long. The fact that he was out of the lineup for those 4 weeks or whatever it was, you saw the difference in what the Texans offense could not do. And so since he's been back, he's just been making plays and being a guy that's taking the top off of defenses, opening up things for other guys, opening up things for the run game. So first game ball goes to Nico Collins. I'm going to go to the opposite side. His counterpart, the #1 corner on the team, I got to go with Stingley. Stingley gets the game ball on defense, 2 picks. He erases guys. He's becoming that guy that, hey, you don't worry about that side. I want to give an honorable mention to Kamari Lassiter because he made big play after big play today. Came up, made tackles. I thought he just played a big time ball game too. Almost had a sack early in the ball game, missed the tackle, but he forced Tua to have to scramble, get out of bounds. I thought the DBs played well. Another honorable mention would be Bullock. And then my last game ball, I'm just going to give it to the Texans defensive line. I just thought that the Texans defensive line made it difficult for Tua all game long, forced a fumble. Will Anderson is Will Anderson. I just thought you just saw different guys show up. Tim Settle shows up here. Daniil Hunter shows up there. How many sacks did they end up with today? I want to say it was like 3. If I'm right or wrong on that, I don't know. I just know that the defensive line got after Tua. Of course, he had to get the ball out quick for the most part, but Tua was unable to switch cheese the defense like a lot of people were concerned that they might do. Like I said, I just thought that the defensive line deserves a game ball. And another honorable mention goes to the special teams coach for the Houston Texans for calling that fake punt in a critical situation. Dare. I know how to pronounce it, but right now I'm running on E a little bit here. So just came from a volleyball tournament. But Dare did a good job running the ball. I thought he fumbled that thing, but he didn't fumble it. He was down by contact, but that was a huge play for the Texans. So overall, I just thought it was an overall team victory. Everybody deserves to get some type of attaboy and pat on the back, but my game balls go to Nico Collins, my guy Stingley, and then the Texans defensive line as a group.
All right, 3 sacks today. Kansas City, Saturday. Patrick Mahomes is banged up, left the game today, hurt, ankle.
Oh, did he?
Yes.
Okay.
He's okay, they said, week to
Okay.
week. He's going to be out there. Can the Texans go get this win?
I definitely think they can go get the win. When you look at the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs, offensively, they've been inconsistent all year long. Today they had a pretty good day at the office, but I look at the Kansas City Chiefs and I say this is a team that can be had. Look at the Kansas City Chiefs and you got Pat Mahomes. He's banged up, but that really doesn't mean anything for Pat Mahomes because I've seen him hobble around and win ball games for years and years now. So, although that's usually like a great sign that Pat Mahomes he's not at full strength and he's hobbling. I've actually seen him win big time ball games in that exact same position. So I'm not going to look at that as an advantage. But I do think that the Texans defense, they're on a high right now. And like I said, they're healthy up front defensively. I think they're playing with a lot of confidence. I think guys like Jimmy Ward I'm gonna call it like I said, they're coming down here and they're trying to tattoo guys. Based off of what happened last week in the whole Aziz situation, that didn't slow down anybody. Anybody could get it. Tua almost didn't make it out this game. I don't know what the hell he was thinking, trying to dive to get a first down. He got tagged by 2 guys. Clean football, but that's the thing about the Texas defense. They play physical. They swarm. They're getting a lot of hats to the ball. It was fun to watch. To watch how those guys play because you could tell they're trying to keep everything in front of them and swarm to the ball. Everybody's playing to their leverage and running through guys. And so that's the type of ball game you have to play against Kansas City Chiefs. Now, they don't have that guy to take the top off besides Xavier Worthy, and Worthy hasn't really been getting that many targets from what I've seen. I don't know what he did today. I think I saw his name come across the ticker, so he must have scored a touchdown or something. But they got that one guy, but you got D-Hop. You got receivers that are possession guys that can catch the ball that are physical. You got to be physical with physical football players. And so I like that matchup for the Texans against the Kansas City Chiefs of, hey, we're going to come and hit you in the mouth and we're going to hit you in the mouth again. And Isaiah Pacheco, he's one of those running backs that he's going to be physical. This is going to be one of those games that it's like, all right, after this game, everybody's going to have to get an extra 5-10 minutes in that cold tub, and everybody's going to have to get an extra couple hours or 2 of sleep to try to recover. Maybe if you got access to a hyperbaric chamber, you need to jump in that thing to get some extra oxygen to your body because this is going to be a physical ball game. I don't know what the temperature is going to be yet, but I'm assuming that it's December, it's Kansas City. I played up there myself. It's going to be cold. It's going to be real cold, And so guys are going to have to take that same mentality and that same physicality up there, playing the code to go out there and get a win.
And you know what? You got to turn right back around after that and play on Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's going to be rough. What was rough is listening to me talk. Wade, thank you for dealing with me. Everybody, thank you for watching. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on the channel. This channel will be back live Thursday for Rockets. Hopefully I have a voice by then. And then next Saturday for Texans coverage as well. I appreciate all you watching out there. Wade, thank you again. We'll talk to you guys next week on the Locked On Texans Postcast.